The question is that the motion be agreed to. Call Darian Fenton.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Well, I rise to put on record Labour's very strong opposition to the minimum wage, starting out wage amendment bill. The passing of this bill today will create an underclass of young workers and consign them to economic marginalisation. Not content to make it impossible for young workers to challenge their unfair treatment and dismissal in the first 90 days of employment. Not content with their abject failure in addressing youth unemployment, this government has now come up with a failed old and tired old approach of cutting the wages of young workers aged 16 to 19 years old. This bill assumes that there are thousands of employers out there just waiting to offer jobs to younger people and to give them a foot in the workforce, as National says and the Minister says. We know that's a false assumption, Mr Speaker. Moby has openly admitted that they have very little idea whether this bill will meet its stated outcomes. Moby tried a best guess that this bill could create 400 to 1,100 jobs, but we in Labour have learned to become very wary of government predictions of job creations. Who's forgotten the 2011 budget projection of 170,000 new jobs by 2015-16? Well, what's happened since then? Unemployment has continued to rise, more good jobs have been lost, and our youth unemployment is a national disgrace. And then today we learn there could be as many as 1,500 more jobs going from telecom, which are high-skilled jobs. What worries me about this bill most of all, Mr Speaker, is it is just the beginning under this young new minister. Treasury has suggested that paying other workers sub-minimum wages is something that could be extended in the future, other workers who have a high unemployment rate. So we could see in the future other vulnerable workers such as Māori in Pacifica, or those who live in areas where jobs are hard to find, on a so-called starting out wage. Unfortunately, what this bill does is remind us that the government has no ideas and we're going back to the past where low-wage jobs are the norm, where productivity is increased by having more people paid less and working longer, where good jobs are offshored because of lack of investment and hands-on economic policy, and where our young people are sacrificed to a future of economic marginality. This bill needs to be read in context with the government's planned changes to other employment laws, which will help slash the wages for hundreds of thousands of other New Zealand workers. From what I hear, the government's ideas for those employment law changes are so irrational that Moby is struggling to draft the appropriate legislation. And I think that may be why the former Minister Kate Wilkinson failed to progress the National Party policy, and the new, young, much admired but very inexperienced and naive Minister, Simon Bridges, will find the same thing. Cuts to workers' rights and pay is classic National Party. In the face of their economic failures, their marginalisation of thousands of unemployed and underemployed, they have resorted to their tried and failed policies of last century. In 2010, the National Party strongly opposed Roger Douglas's Members' Bill to reintroduce youth rates, and the then Minister of Labour, Kate Wilkinson, confirmed that her government would not support a return to discriminatory and unfair youth rates. We heard a range of florid speeches, and I can see we're going to get another one from members like David Bennett and Jackie Blue, opposing youth rates and saying young people deserve better. Well, what's changed? What's changed is the government is returning to its neoliberal roots of cuts to workers' rights and pay as a substitute for real economic policy and plans. And it's our young people that are going to pay the price. Mr Speaker, you know, the most offensive thing about this bill is its framing as a starting out wage. We know that that title is simply not true. Under this bill, 16 and 17-year-olds will be returned to youth rates every time they start a new job, regardless of previous job experience. And under this bill, 18 and 19-year-olds who may have already had jobs on adult minimum wages or adult wages will be forced onto sub-minimum rates if they've been unfortunate enough to be on a social security benefit, including invalids and sickness benefits. This bill, combined with the social welfare reforms we heard about yesterday and debated here of the Minister, Paula Bennett, feeds the notion that our young people are lazy, they're addicted to drugs and they're unreliable. It's based on the false assumption that the only way we can get young people into work is to pay them less. Now, the National Party has tried to run the argument that this bill is about the dignity of work. Labor certainly agrees that work is the best antidote to poverty, but it should be decent work. Decent work is not where people are paid less than their worth, where they can be sacked without reason, where they can be forced to take jobs that could be unsafe, and where they are punished by a nasty regime within the social security system if they don't gratefully sign up for any job on sub-minimum wages. A job should not only be about the work performed, it's a lot more than that, Mr. Speaker. It is about getting experience, but it's about relationships in the workplace with other people. It's about being fulfilled as a human being. People must feel recognised for their efforts and know they are valued for those efforts and the contribution they make, and that applies to 16 and 17 and 18 and 19-year-olds as much as anyone else. What this bill will do, Mr. Speaker, is unleash thousands of young people available for cheaper workers onto our labour market, and that affects every single worker in New Zealand. There's absolutely no doubt that cheaper young workers lead to displacement of older workers who in this dire economic climate are desperate to hang on to their jobs, who are not only in the queues of unemployment but underemployment, who are crying out for better wages, crying out for a government that will do something to help them. And it takes no account of the expenses of young people, the expenses they incur while actually working, and whether the job will pay for the expenses of going to work. When we have a minister who's so desperate to claim success in job creation that she trumpets the employment of 16 workers for 2 weeks in the census collection, we are in real trouble. When we now apparently have a culture within our government agencies where jobs gains are celebrated by the ringing of a bell, no matter what the job, no matter what the pay, no matter what the conditions, what the safety risks are, and all that matters is numbers, we are in serious trouble. As we've gone through this bill, Mr. Speaker, I've had on my mind one person I want to mention, and that is a teenager called Peniata Junior Enderman. Peniata was a student at Edgware College in Auckland who works from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Monday to Friday as a cleaner earning minimum wage. He's studying full-time. He's still at school. He's 16 going on 17. This, along with his homework, means that Peniata puts in 16-hour days to help his mother, who also works as a cleaner on minimum wage, and to help provide for their family and 3 siblings, aged 15, 13 and 9. So Peniata was not lazy or unmotivated or unwilling. He's got himself a job. He shouldn't have to, but with the state of our economy and low wages, it means in families like his, everyone has to help out. But if Peniata changes his employment, or if he's employed by a different cleaning firm, under this bill and the government's intentions around protections for cleaners and other vulnerable workers, his pay will go down to $11 an hour. So it's young people like Peniata that the young minister, Simon Bridges, needs to talk to. This government did not listen to the more than 500 submissions opposed to this bill. They ignored the business community who said this isn't a silver bullet and it won't do the job and the government needs to do a lot better on youth unemployment. And the simple arrogance of this bill is gobsmacking. I can't express strongly enough Labor's disappointment and dismay at the direction this government is taking today.
I call David Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to